Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Laura Prada from our Telesur studios in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin checking out our headlines. Venezuelan authorities condemned the failed armed incursion into the country by Colombian paramilitaries this Sunday. Brazil's President Jair Bolsonaro rallied against the country's lockdown as the nation reaches over 6,000 deaths. The novel coronavirus pandemic keeps spreading across the globe. Total contagions approaches to 3.5 million and 250,000 deaths. We begin with our news. You stay with us. Begin with our news. Venezuela's Vice President Delcy Rodriguez rejected and condemned the failed terrorist incursion occurred this Sunday morning when she issued the daily COVID-19 update.
Without first talking about what happened against our homeland in the early hours of Sunday, mercenaries with the complicity of DEA agents, with the presence of drug trafficking mercenaries linking to the Venezuela's far-right opposition, they intend to make a terrorist incursion into our territory to violate the territorial integrity of Venezuela.
Rodriguez also recalled the UN Secretary General called for a truce in conflicts. In the midst of this pandemic, a threat to all humanity, the Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, rightly called for a truce in conflicts, called for a truce to commercial, economic and financial wars. But today, in our investigations, we have found very important evidence that will be shown to our country soon. Links with a U.S. mercenary well known internationally for his involvement in destabilization attacks in Iraq and Afghanistan. Vice President Rodriguez informed of 12 new cases of COVID-19 in the Bolivarian country.
In fact, we wanted to report that in the last 24 hours, 12 cases have been detected, leading to a figure of 357 cases for Venezuela.
And Venezuela's Minister of Defense, Vladimir Padrino Lopez, also condemned this armed incursion through the coastal state of La Guaira in the early hours of this Sunday.
We have tenaciously confronted an illegal incursion by terrorist elements that attempted to enter land from sea and use force against Venezuelans. This was an attempt to destabilize the country, national peace, and in this case, to also violate our sovereignty, which is sacred to us. They are interfering with what is most sacred to us soldiers, that is, our sovereignty, the integrity of our geographical spaces, our independence, which are our inalienable rights.
The president of the Venezuela's National Constituent Assembly, Diosdado Cabello, denounced this frustrated armed incursion into Venezuela this Sunday, stressing that it was orchestrated by the United States with the support of Colombia and the open financing of drug traffickers.
Está muy claro quiénes están detrás de esto.
It is very clear who is behind this. Behind this is the United States. Behind this is the Colombian oligarchy and drug trafficking. One of the people detained, she herself stated she was an official of the DEA. She participated in DEA operations here in the Americas. She is Venezuelan, so let's not be surprised to learn of the links there may be. I repeat, this is very sad, because where an official of our national Bolivarian armed forces should be, even if retired, is far away from drug trafficking groups.
And the Venezuelan Interior Minister Nestor Reverol offered further details regarding the Colombian paramilitaries who attempted to enter the country through the coastal state of La Guaira in the very early hours of this Sunday.
We would like to inform and denounce to the national and international community that early this morning, May 3rd, 2020, they tried to attempt a sea invasion, a group of terrorist mercenaries that were coming from Colombia with the objective to commit terrorist attacks in our country, assassinate leaders of the revolutionary government, and to increase the spiral of violence, generate chaos and confusion among the population. And with this, to begin a new attempt of coup d'etat. These terrorists attempted to come into the country through fast boats on the coast of La Guaira. But thanks to the fast and effective actions of our armed forces and of the task force of the police, some were brought down and others are now imprisoned. Just like some of the weapons have been recollected. Further on in the day, we will give you details since the operation is ongoing. And it is not discarded that there might be new detentions since there is a complete investigation ongoing through air, space, and land. It seems that all of the frustrated attempts of previous coup d'etat of the legitimate government that is led by President Nicolás Maduro has dragged them to formulate actions that are beyond the law. They will all receive our forceful rejection and of the international community. We remain in complete vigilance and resistance to any attack on our country, and we will respond forcefully against these terrorist groups that are attempting against our peace, which is and will be our ultimate goal.
And reactions have followed. For example, Cuban Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez took to social media to condemn the attack on Venezuela's sovereignty. The minister said, "I vigorously condemn the mercenary incursion in Venezuela. Our complete solidarity and support for President Nicolás Maduro and the civic military union of the Bolivarian people who fights against foreign attacks and the pandemic. Stop imperialist sanctions that cause humanitarian damage." With this information, we go for a first break. Remember, follow us on Twitter at Telesur English and on my account at Laura P. Telesur. We'll be right back with more news. We are back with our news. Brazil's President Jair Bolsonaro rallied against the country's lockdown in a speech to anti-confinement demonstrators just as the number of confirmed COVID-19 infections surpassed 100,000. The far-right president met hundreds of people gathering in front of the presidential palace this Sunday, despite the fact they were not respecting social distancing measures. In his latest remarks, Bolsonaro sparked widespread indignation as Brazil is still several weeks away from reaching the peak of the pandemic. With a death toll that was already topped 6,300, the giant South American country is facing a grim of a scenario as Italy or the United States. And the United States continues to be the global epicenter of the novel coronavirus pandemic. Over the last 24 hours, the country has registered over 1,400 COVID-19 fatalities. As of Sunday, the U.S. has reported more than 1.17 million confirmed cases, while the death toll surpasses 68,000. The New York State remains the main hotspot to COVID-19 in the country, with its health system near collapse. Several states across the U.S. continue to denounce the lack of federal support. Despite health authorities' recommendations, some states have resumed economic activities after easing social isolation measures. Experts have pointed out this could lead to a second wave of COVID-19 cases nationwide. In the U.S., the governor of the state of New York, Andrew Cuomo, made a call to continue with preventative measures despite a decrease in the latest infection figures.
The number that is the most important number that we look at, which is still tremendously distressing, is the number of deaths, 280. And you can see that that number has not moved dramatically in a relatively long period of time. But the overall direction is good, even though it's very painful. Wear a mask. Wear a mask. I mean, that's the basic step, right? Socially distance. If you can't socially distance, you're in New York City, you're going to walk up next to a person, wear a mask. Okay, it's not the most attractive garment ever created. So what?
In Italy, about 1,000 health workers will provide medical assistance in the prison system amid the COVID-19 pandemic. Meanwhile, Justice Minister stressed that the healthcare workers will spread over the territory to guarantee more safety, already guaranteed by doctors and nurses of the local health agency.
We are working all together to try to face this emergency in a reality that is already a difficult one, such as the prison system. Today is an important step. We have 998 health workers that will help safeguard health.
And Spain's health ministry has reported the lowest daily rise in COVID-19 deaths since March 18th. As of Sunday, the country has surpassed 247,000 COVID-19 cases, while the death toll rose to over 25,000.
We have 164 deaths. That's under 200. That's again a very good figure, compared to the figures we were seeing earlier. Within the sadness of always talking about dead people, it's going to be difficult for us to have a high enough herd immunity in the next few months. And that's because we've managed to control the transmission, and that's a good thing.
The United Kingdom confirmed on Sunday that 315 people had died since the previous day after testing positive for COVID-19. The figure brought the total number of people who have died in hospitals, care homes, and the wider community to over 28,400, representing the third highest death toll in the world. United Kingdom government has claimed it's ramping up COVID-19 testing and preparing for mass contact tracing in order to ease the country's lockdown. However, the government has already missed its daily testing target of 100,000, having only carried out 76,000 tests in the last 24 hours. Prime Minister Boris Johnson has claimed that the country has passed the peak of the pandemic despite the number of COVID-19 cases in Britain rising to over 186,000, the fourth highest number in the world. COVID-19 death toll in Netherlands exceeded 5,000 on Sunday, according to National Institute for Public Health and the Environment. Dutch health authorities have confirmed a daily increase of more than 300 COVID-19 cases, taking the country's total to over 4,500. Meanwhile, the number of people who are or were admitted to hospital for COVID-19 treatments is about to top 11,000. Netherlands authorities have warned that the actual number of infections is probably higher because not all suspected patients are being tested. And meanwhile, the Austrian capital Vienna on-site coronavirus testing will become available at the international airport from Monday. The move comes as Vienna aims to ease COVID-19 restrictions in the next few weeks, while it avoids having to hold passengers in quarantine for 14 days. Austria has reported over 15,000 cases and almost 600 deaths.
This reopening is quite good. I also think it's great that we're observing the security distance. It's a good thing. and the economy, which was on hold, is now slowly returning. I was very self-disciplined, and I took it seriously. But when I see what is happening today, it is just like before Corona. Way too many people outside. Measures were taken, but I still find it a bit exaggerated and way too early. One can only pray that it will not come back in autumn.
Singapore has confirmed over 650 new COVID-19 cases, the vast majority of them foreign migrants workers living in dormitories. Singapore has among the highest number of novel coronavirus in Asia at over 18,200. According to the Ministry of Health, about 87,000 or 15,000 of the total number of cases are migrants workers. On Sunday, health authorities announced one new COVID-19 fatality, bringing the country's death toll to 18. Authorities announced plans to start easing coronavirus restrictions over the next few weeks on Saturday. Like this, we go for a second break. You stay tuned with us. We are back with our news. The novel coronavirus pandemic keeps spreading across the globe. Total contagions approaches to 3.5 million and 250,000 deaths. United States continues to be the epicenter of the pandemic with a record of 154,000 COVID-19 cases, representing more than one-third of the global figure. In Europe, Spain has been the country worst hit as they have recorded 217,000 cases. Meanwhile, Italy has the highest death toll from the virus in the Asian continent of 29,000 deceased. In Asia, China, once a global epicenter of the infection, yet the measures implemented by the government allowed that 78 over 84,000 COVID-19 patients could be recovered. Currently in Latin America and the Caribbean, Brazil has reported the majority of COVID-19 cases with about 100,000 confirmed patients. And in Africa, more than 2 months after Egypt became the first country in the continent to confirm a COVID-19 case, the pandemic has reached almost every nation of the African continent. As of May 2nd, the confirmed coronavirus death toll across the African continent stood at 1,700, according to Africa's Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. There are over 42,700 confirmed cases, while more than 14,000 patients have recovered from the virus. Of Africa, 54 countries, only Lesotho has not yet reported a single COVID-19 case. On Sunday, Tanzania had reported a total of 408 cases of COVID-19 and 17 deaths. Meanwhile, South Africa, the second hardest hit African nation after Egypt, has confirmed over 6,300 cases, while its death toll stands at 123. Moving on to continuing in Africa, President of Tanzania, John Magufuli, have raised concerns over COVID-19 figures in the past in the East African country as offered by the National Laboratory.
When we took a pop-up sample for a COVID-19 test, we labeled the sample as Elizabeth Annie, aged 26, female. The result came out positive. This means those fluids inside the papa is coronavirus positive, something which is totally insane. If we will stop our people from playing football, a sport, it is like we want them to go and get affected by corona by implication. So I am waiting for my team of health experts to advise me on this. If possible, we should allow our football league to continue.
And the Rwandan government will allow limited movement of people and restricted opening of businesses, including restaurants and hotels, as it starts to ease its coronavirus lockdown on Monday. According to a government statement, movement between provinces will not be allowed, while schools will also remain closed until September. As of Sunday, Rwanda has reported 255 confirmed COVID-19 cases and no deaths. And one positive information about, in the midst of COVID-19 but not related, Sudanese officials banned the widespread practice of female genital mutilation after the transitional government approved a landmark draft law. Some 87% of Sudanese women between 14 and 49 years of age have undergone some form of female genital mutilation, according to the United Nations. Under the proposed amendment to Criminal Code, anyone found guilty of performing the procedure would be sentenced to up to 3 years in prison. The move comes following years of persistent and forceful advocacy, including by the National Council of Child Welfare, Women and Children Advocates, UN agencies, and international, national, and community-based organizations. Moving on, Yemen has so far reported 10 cases of coronavirus in 3 major cities, but none in Houthi-held territories. The government has called on international organizations of the United Nations to offer help to the nation as it attempts to tackle the spread of the new coronavirus.
We have sent this message to Lise Grande and others, saying that the solution used for the PCR tests is about to run out. We have explained today that due to the global situation of coronavirus, the ongoing assault against our country and the embargo on our country, and because the amount of PCR tests for coronavirus, which we have received from the World Health Organization, is very little and it's about to run out, we are sending this appeal.
And the government of Jordan announced that centering commercial sectors would be allowed to reopen while complying with health and safety requirements. The Minister of Industry, Tarek Hamoudi, confirmed that the majority of businesses will be allowed to work at full productive capacity. However, they will have to comply with social distancing guidelines. The restart of economic activities does not include schools nor places like mosques and entertainment facilities. The country has reported 460 COVID-19 cases and 9 deaths since the first case was reported on March 2nd.
It was decided from Wednesday, 6 May 2020, to open all economic sectors which have not been allowed to operate fully and allow them to work at fully productive capacity, provided that the percentage of the Jordanian labor is not less than 75%.
Every person must adhere to the specific distancing and adhere to wearing a mask and gloves before entering public places, including ministries, government agencies, public and official institutions, and before entering places where public-facing services are provided, such as companies, institutions, establishments, or shopping places, malls, shops, medical clinics, and health centers.
Iran's President Hassan Rouhani confirmed that mosques will reopen across a large part of the country. This Monday, mosques have been closed since early March after the coronavirus outbreak intensified. Rouhani said in a televised meeting of the country's virus task force that 132 countries, around one-third of the country's administrative division, would reopen their mosques from Monday as they are low-risk areas. However, he stressed that social distancing is more important than collective prayer. The president also said the task force was considering reopening schools by May 16th to allow for a month of classes before the summer break. The country saw a fall in the daily number of confirmed cases of the COVID-19 confirmed cases on Saturday, which have now reached over 97,000.
We decided today that 132 counties that are in the white condition, I was told to call them low risk instead. Well, these counties will reopen their mosques as of tomorrow, recommends Friday prayers while observing health protocols.
And after 40 days of inactivity, the Palestinian stock exchange resumed trading on Sunday as authorities slowly started easing lockdown restrictions. Chief Executive of Palestine Exchange Ahmad Ahwedida said investors would be able to trade remotely in line with health guidelines. Operations were halted 40 days ago to protect staff and prevent market volatility amid the spread of the coronavirus. 48 companies are listed on the exchange, which was established in 1995 and has a total market capitalization of about $3.8 billion. Palestine has reported 353 COVID-19 cases and 2 deaths. Like this, we come to the end of this news brief. Of course, you can find this and much more other information on our website, tellusterenglish.net. Of course, there you can read opinion articles, watch special interviews, and find so much more material that we produce especially for you. And of course, you can update yourself about the situation of COVID-19 around the world. Like this, we come to the end, so you continue with us with Telesur, always together, connecting our global thoughts. Until next time, thank you for watching.